Hello everyone, this is Grakef. I'm back. Starting a new series here on RP1. It's based upon Kerbal 3.1.31, and we're going to go ahead and set the difficult to moderate. They do suggest that you set it to moderate or hard, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to moderate, and let's go ahead and get started. So as it's loading up, RP1 is a mod pack based upon the realism overhaul, and that takes and makes Kerbal Space Program not just a video game, but more of a simulator. So a couple of boxes are going to jump up right away. One has to deal with retirement. We're not too worried about that because we're going to go ahead and let those guys go because we're not going to be flying a lot of crew missions to start off with. We're going to go ahead and do sounding rockets and those kind of things. So, okay. Kerbal construction time comes up, and we do need to set the presets for that. So we're going to set it up to RP0 and go ahead and hit save. And then we're going to go ahead and spend our upgrade points. So the upgrades allow us to make things faster. So with Kerbal construction time, we do have to wait for rockets to build, and so we are going to spend those initial points in our vehicle assembly building. We could spend it in the space hangar. We're not going to do a whole lot of planes this playthrough, so that'd be kind of wasting points. And then for research and development, we're not too worried about that initially. We will get more points available to us as we do more research and development, so we can split our points between the vehicle assembly building and the research and development. And as we become more successful, we can always buy points for 30,000. That is quite a bit of chunk of change, though. Okay, so first off, with all Kerbal-esque, space missions, we just need to launch something into the air. So we're going to go ahead and build something to launch into the air. We're going to be starting off with a very traditional sounding rocket. One of the sounding rockets that they built pre-war, World War II, or during World War II, was the WAC Corporal, and we're going to build one of those. Okay, a little bit of bug with this. You notice we don't have any parts available to us other than these non-RPO parts. So let's go ahead and do the little flip-flop here between the mission control and R&D. So if we notice, we go in here to research and development. We have the starting parts available to us, but the start parts, but the starting parts here are not available, and they have to be unlocked by a mission. So let's go to mission control. See if that one has a, okay. So hopefully unlock parts. Sometimes you have to flip between the two. Okay, now we got that green and we're good to go. All right, let's go ahead and build this vehicle here. All right. Okay, so we have the some avionics available to us. This is very early 1940s style avionics. So there's not a whole lot of smarts to this. So it is a simple receiver and a time delay circuit for sounding rockets. There is the A4 guidance available to us. This is the A4 V2 RD100 series of rockets that were used for hauling destructive payloads during World War II, and then later were used for science, and during the war as well. They were used for science a little bit as well. So we're going to start out with the Aero-B WAC Corporal, and we're going to go ahead and grab this one, this core. Just a little gotcha with between these two different, the sounding rocket telemetry unit versus the Aero-B unit. And One is based on 300 millimeter and the other one is based on 380 millimeter. That's going to be very important to us as we're building our rocket, so just be aware of whichever one you pick. You're going to probably want to continue with that size. So I want to do the Aero B core, and so then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to use, we need some tanks and engines. We're going to use the Aero B engine. Let's grab that while we're in here. Let's do this one. I like the look of this one a little bit better. It comes with a little bit of shielding and that. We're going to go ahead and use procedural tanks. And we're going to make it that 380 millimeter size. So 400, 380. Oh, there we go. Okay. And let's go ahead and paint it so that it has that distinctive WAC Corp yellow available. It's the last one because it's W. There we go. And we'll go ahead and put one on top here. What we're going to do with this one is we're going to make this into a smooth cone. We're going to actually use this down the road to handle sounding rocket payload when we get those missions. So okay, and get that nice yellow going there. Okay, so there we go. So we got us a basic little rocket, and you'll notice though, indifferent from KSP versus Realism Overhaul, when we put the rocket on the bottom, we didn't immediately get any thrust or thrust to weight ratio showing up or any delta V. And that's because we have to configure this tank for this rocket. So we have something that's called real fuels, and so we have to use fuels that are for that type of rocket. Now you notice I went ahead and added fuel, but we do have a problem here. Our rocket is complaining about feed pressure too low. So the WAC Corporal line of engines and the Aero B line of engines as a whole use pressurized tanks. So we have to use a high pressure tank and then add our fuel to that. That will hit us a little bit on the weight because the tank will weigh a little bit more. And so we'll notice that our dry mass goes up just a little bit for that. So notice the dry mass for a unpressurized tank versus the pressurized tank there. So okay, go ahead and add our fuels back. So we're going to go ahead and extend this tank out to 2 meters. We're actually looking for, let's go back down to 1 meter. That's a little high. How about 1.5? Yeah, we'll do 1 meter. The reason I'm dancing back and forth is because of something called tooling. So because we're using procedural parts, nobody's ever built this tank per se, so there's no tooling available for it. So it is costing us 700 Kerbal bucks to launch this very inexpensive rocket, and then another 564 on our rollout cost. So by tooling the tank and spending 1,323 in tooling costs, it will make it much cheaper, 32 and 95, and then we can tool this tank as well. Actually, it looks like we're good because these are similar lengths, so that allowed us to have some fudge room there with the tank. So now it's only going to cost us 32 and 95 to roll this out. I need to add some aerodynamics. So let's go ahead and grab these little aerodynamic fins. Okay, get those on there, and then we'll add a launch stability. Whoa, that's a little too much. There we go. And that's how you have your first rocket. So that was pretty straightforward. And so we'll go ahead and call this WAC. And we'll go ahead. I'm also we don't need that shroud on this engine. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off. And just for the looks, we'll hit save and we'll launch. And we'll see here in our Kerbal build list that it's going to take 14 days. So we'll go ahead and leave. We'll warp forward those 14 days and go ahead and fire off our rocket. Warping to complete. Once this is done, we'll have to roll out the vehicle. So we got to take it from the vehicle assembly building across the crawler pad to the launch pad. And there'll be a little bit of cost there, the rollout costs. So there we go, 1 second, 0. And so now we're ready to go ahead and roll out. So we'll warp to complete on that. Take, I think it was a day. And 2 hours left, 1 hour, 30 seconds. Okay. So now we have a rocket available to us, and that is ready to launch. So now we can go talk to Mission Control. We can see what they have available for us. There should be just one mission. That's going to be the same as always, the first launch mission. So let's go ahead and accept that. Leave facility. All right. So let's go ahead and launch our first rocket. So if you click on the launch pad, you'll see that it flashes up there real quick. You can't launch that way. You do have to launch from the Kerbal construction time. So wait for this to go ahead and load. This would be a really simple launch procedure. As we get into more advanced rockets such as the A4 and the RD100, our launch procedures will be a little bit more intense, but this is basically just hit the space bar and let it go. This is a very basic rocket. We do not have any SAS or vehicle controlling type units at this point. This is all during the war, so we don't, not a whole lot of, no microchips at all, no vacuum tubes, those kind of things. So, all right, we'll go ahead and launch it up. And that's all it takes to launch your first rocket. There is science, and we can go ahead and do that. We can get a telemetry analysis, and because this is just ones and zeros kind of data, we can transmit that. Science works a little bit differently in Realism Overhaul in that data type sciences can be transmitted and transmitted for 100%, whereas things such as photography or biological samples, that stuff does need to be returned from space for it to be used, analyzed back at the science centers and stuff like that. So, all right, so our rocket is almost out of fuel, and we're going to reach altitude, it looks like, of 38,000. So a very successful first mission, very stable flight, and at this point we'll let it reach the apogee, and then we'll go ahead and use the range safety and explode it so that any unburnt fuels, it looks like we did burn up all the rest, but nothing comes down and hurts anybody. We'll just go ahead and explode that. So looks like we did pass our apogee. So I'll go ahead and do the range safety there. All right, well, that was our first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Next episode, we'll be launching a little bit more of these rockets and getting into some more advanced stuff. Thank you. Have a great day.